Okay, so in this video I want to talk about some things that relate to the grid and to quantization. Before we get into the hardware, what buttons to actually press, let's understand what these things actually are. So I'll go ahead and press this grid button on the hardware and see what we have to work with. Now we have perform, pattern, and step. Starting with perform, this is something I'll get into a little bit more in a later video, but just as a quick understanding, perform is going to determine how quickly Maschine changes scenes, so how fast it moves between different scenes. Next we have pattern, and this is going to determine how finely you can adjust the length of your pattern. So let's do a quick example here. If I go out of here and create a new pattern for my drums, let's just do this and then move my knob for the length here. It's just going in increments of 1 bar. Now if I go back to that grid and change it to something like a quarter note and go back to my pattern here, I change the length. Now you can see I have a finer adjustment. So for all basic projects, at least the ones that I've been working on, I never go out of either 1 bar or a quick mode for this pattern grid. So chances are those will be the ones you're working with, but if you want those other options, just know that they're there to work with. Now we also have an option for step, and this is going to be the one that I'm most concerned with in this video. So what exactly is step size? Let's see. So if we have a 1 bar pattern, let's go ahead and make a 1 bar pattern as a quick example, and then we choose a step size of a quarter note. That is going to divide our 1 bar pattern into 4 different grid sizes. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to see this visually on the Maschine hardware, but if you look in the software, you can see that actually you do have a 1 bar long pattern, and there are 4 spaces in the grid. Now, if we change this to an 1/8 note, that's going to take each of those 4 grid sizes, cut it in half, and that's going to make a total of 8 grid sizes, 8 grid steps in the total 1 bar long pattern. So we have a lot of different options here, and basically what this is doing is just dividing your pattern into individual note lengths. Now, as we can't see it visually on the hardware, we can sort of do a couple things to understand what this grid size is sort of similar to. So if we exit here and then go to our step mode here, I have a video on using the step sequencer, but I won't cover it now. This is just a quick way to see what that grid actually looks like visually. So let's go ahead and press the restart button here. You can see this lit up pad is moving across the grid in a way that corresponds to that quarter note grid size division. So again, back here we have a quarter note as our step size, and now this is moving across in quarter notes. And that is the length that they are. That you can kind of get a sense of that. Now if we go back to our grid, change this to an 1/8 note, and then play this again, it's moving twice as fast, and understandably so, it is going to have twice as many lit up pads. So because there's more divisions, they're moving faster, and it's going to display more lit up pads. So that is a nice way to see visually what the grid size is looking like, and you can also get a sense of it using this note repeat option here. So if we go ahead and select this and just put it on quarter note, that is what a quarter note sounds like for my specific project tempo. Now if I change this to an 1/8 note, that is what an 1/8 note sounds like. So those are going to be the same lengths as our step size, depending on how we select it here. So between those note repeat options and the step size and the step sequencer, I mean, you can kind of get a sense of what the grid is and how it relates to your actual project. And now, with all this said, you might be asking yourself, why does it matter? What is the importance of setting the grid to this specific thing? Well, this is all going to come in handy for something called quantization, an automated process that goes through and looks at all the notes that you played live and then moves them to the nearest grid place. And this is going to really help if you don't play everything exactly in time. So for that instance, we want to get our grid size set up to what it needs to be in order for quantization to work effectively. That is sort of the end goal of this video, to set up a grid size and then quantize everything and make sure it sounds exactly in time. So as usual, the best way to show this, I think, is with a specific example. So I'll go ahead and make this new pattern 2 bars long and just try to record a drum pattern that sounds basically in time. Let's see what I can do here. So you can hear some of those notes are a little bit off. Doesn't sound horrible, but it's not exactly in time. So let's go ahead and figure out how we can use the grid and quantization to fix this pattern and make it sound a little bit better. So first of all, we got to do is set our grid size to the appropriate resolution. Let's go here and see our options again. We have quarter note, eighth note, 16th note. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the best setting for this specific pattern? So let's go ahead and take a look at this pattern again. As a general rule of thumb, we want to set our grid size to the fastest note that we need, but no faster. So in this pattern, my fastest note is going to be those hi-hats. And we want to understand what those actually are. Are they quarter notes or 16th notes or whatever? So I use this with the note repeat option here. They're not going to be quarter notes. Those are way too slow. If I change this, not that, definitely not that. That's still too fast. And I think a selection is going to be, yeah, so they're eighth notes. We can use a note repeat to figure out what our fastest note is and actually put a number on it. So we want to set our grid size to eighth note, exit this, and now after all this preparation, we can just go ahead and do a very easy process, shift, pad 5, and that's going to automatically move those notes to the closest place. Let's see what it sounds like. Perfect, it sounds exactly in time as we might expect. You can also use quantization, just do halfway instead of the full one like we did. So if I undo this and then press halfway, that's just going to move the note right in between where it is originally and where it would be if we performed full quantization. So that's a nice way to sort of preserve some of that human groove. And another option to do is just selectively quantizing things. So say I want to quantize just my hi-hats. First I'll go ahead and undo this, and then this is also a nice time to introduce the events select menu here. Shift and select, that's going to give me on events, and then if I just press any of these pads, that's going to select all of the notes that correspond to the individual pad. So I'll select all my hi-hats here, and now I'm going to go ahead and quantize those and see how that sounds. So you can see maybe this isn't the best time to quantize just those hi-hats. Maybe I should be working with the kick and the snare. Undo that. Let's select these and then quantize those. And in that way you can just choose parts that sound off and then selectively quantize those. Now last but not least, we can introduce the option to automatically quantize things as soon as you play them. So to do this, go ahead and go Shift and Grid. It's going to get us into record mode, and we can go ahead and turn quantize mode over to record. Now what this will do is it won't affect anything to play it as you play it the first time, but when it comes back around, you'll hear that the notes are exactly in time. They've been automatically quantized. So I'll go ahead and do an option here, clear this, and we'll go ahead and record. And as it goes back around, you can hear everything is right on the grid and is exactly quantized. I would recommend being a little bit careful with this automatic mode here. It does have its merits as a tool that you can use sparingly, but if you happen to do this for every single note that you play into Maschine, your track can kind of get that overly quantized, sort of computerized feel to it. So that's just personal preference. I figure I'd mention it, but hopefully this video shows you the actual tools you need to work with your patterns and maybe make them a little bit more in time and just make sure everything sounds as you want it to do. You have the options to do this quantization in any way you want. So I think that covers everything for this video here. The next one we'll go ahead and start talking about scenes.